All right, get ready because today we're going deep into Enneagram compatibility. Specifically, Type 1, the reformer, and Type 3, the achiever.
Oh, this is a good one.
I know, right? At first glance, you might think, power couple.
Right.
Both are driven, principled, always aiming for the best.
Definitely a pairing with a ton of potential.
For sure. But is it really a match made in Enneagram heaven? That's what we're going to find out.
Let's dive in.
Okay, so real quick, for anyone needing a reminder, Type 1s have this inner compass pointed toward perfection.
Yeah, integrity, doing things the right way.
Exactly. And let's just say they're not shy about pointing out when things aren't up to par.
True. And then you have our Type 3s.
Ah, yes, the achievers.
They light up a room with their ambition and charm. Natural-born achievers, always striving to reach their goals, make a mark on the world.
So we've got a type all about principles and a type all about achievement.
You can already see the seeds of both harmony and conflict. Right?
Absolutely. That's what makes this pairing so interesting to me. But, even seemingly compatible types can clash. Where do we even begin with the potential clashes?
Oh, there are a few. For example, a Type 1's drive for perfection can clash with a Type 3's need for efficiency. Think about them planning a vacation, right?
Oh, I gotta hear.
The Type 1 might meticulously research every destination, agonizing over the perfect itinerary. Meanwhile, the Type 3, eager to just relax and have fun, is already booking flights and hotels.
Oh, I can see the travel tension already. It's not just about different paces, though, is it? Their communication styles could also be a recipe for misunderstandings.
Absolutely. Type 1s, known for their directness, sometimes to the point of bluntness, they might say something like, "This presentation needs a complete overhaul. It's not even close to good enough."
Oof. Yeah, that's...
And a Type 3 who's very image-conscious, sensitive to feedback, especially if it feels like a personal attack, might hear that and completely shut down.
Yeah, that makes sense. It sounds like a Type 1 might need to work on their delivery a bit, maybe saying something like, "Hey, I think this presentation has potential," but with a few tweaks, it could be even more impactful.
Exactly. Framing things in a way that feels supportive and encouraging, rather than critical or judgmental.
For sure. So communication's a big one. Then there's the whole issue of criticism, something both types can be, shall we say, sensitive to.
Yes, but in very different ways. Type 1s can be incredibly self-critical, holding themselves to impossibly high standards.
I can definitely see that.
And that tendency to focus on flaws can sometimes spill over into their relationships, making their Type 3 partner feel like they're never quite good enough.
And for a Type 3 who thrives on validation and recognition, that can be a real blow.
Exactly. So for this pairing to work, the Type 1 needs to balance their desire for improvement with acceptance and appreciation for their partner's efforts.
It's like finding that sweet spot between constructive feedback and unconditional support.
Yes, finding that balance is key. And that's where understanding wings in the Enneagram can be helpful.
Wings. Now you've got me intrigued. Tell me more.
So in addition to your core type, you also have a wing, the type adjacent to yours on the Enneagram circle. And it adds another layer of nuance to your personality.
Interesting. So for example,
a Type 1 with a 9 wing, sometimes called the idealist, might be more peace-loving and conflict avoidant than a Type 1 with a 2 wing, the advocate, who's often more assertive and people-pleasing.
Oh, that makes sense. So knowing your partner's wing can give you even more insight into their motivations.
Absolutely. Why they react the way they do in certain situations, and how to best approach sensitive topics.
Gotcha. Okay, so we've talked about some potential conflict zones, but this pairing also has incredible strengths, right? What are some of the positive aspects that make this duo so powerful?
Well, their shared values are a huge asset. Both Type 1s and Type 3s have a strong moral compass, a desire to make a positive impact on the world.
Yeah. It's not just about achieving success for themselves. It's about using their talents to make a difference.
Exactly. And their shared drive for excellence. That's a major plus.
I mean, this isn't just workaholism, right? It's a deeper desire to be their best selves, contribute something meaningful.
Exactly. And that's where their different approaches can actually become complementary strengths.
Okay, how so?
Well, the Type 1's attention to detail, their commitment to quality, it can help the Type 3 refine their ideas and avoid cutting corners. And the Type 3's enthusiasm, their ability to think outside the box, that can inspire the Type 1 to embrace new challenges, take risks.
So it's like they each bring a different piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Together, they can create something truly extraordinary.
Precisely. And that's what makes Enneagram compatibility so fascinating. It's not about finding someone exactly like you. It's about finding someone who complements your strengths, challenges you to grow in ways you never thought possible.
Love that. But relationships aren't always sunshine and rainbows. Life throws curveballs. Stress happens. How would a type 1 and type 3 pair navigate those stormy seas?
Well, that's where their different coping mechanisms come into play. Type 1s, under stress, often double down on their principles, seek order and structure.
Okay, so they become even more type 1.
Pretty much, yeah. They might become even more critical of themselves than others, which can be tough for a type 3 who's already feeling the pressure.
And how about type 3s? How do they handle stress?
They tend to go into overdrive, channeling their anxiety into action. They might work even harder, take on more responsibilities, focus on achieving goals as a way to cope, which can be frustrating for a type 1 who might see it as avoidance or a lack of emotional processing.
So it sounds like they need to be extra mindful of each other's needs during those stressful times.
Exactly. The key is for both types to recognize and respect their partner's coping mechanisms, even if they're different from their own. Instead of trying to force each other to change, they can offer support and understanding.
So, for example, a type 1 might need to remind themselves that the type 3's busyness isn't disinterest, but their way of dealing with anxiety.
Exactly. And a type 3 might need to create space for the type 1 to express their feelings, process their emotions, even if it doesn't seem productive at the moment.
It's about finding that balance, creating a safe space to support each other through those ups and downs.
Absolutely. And what's so fascinating is that their differences, when embraced and navigated with awareness, can actually become the catalyst for incredible growth and transformation.
I love that. It's like they each hold a key to unlocking the other's potential. But you know what? We focused a lot on the challenges. Let's dive deeper into the specific ways a type 1 and type 3 can thrive together, how they can truly unlock their full potential as a couple.
I'm ready when you are.
So we've explored some of those potential friction points, but now I want to shift gears. Talk about what makes this dynamic truly shine. How can these two types inspire each other, support each other's growth?
One of the most beautiful things about this pairing is their shared desire for meaning and purpose. Both types 1 and 3s, they want to make a difference in the world. But they approach it from different angles.
So the type 1, driven by that strong sense of right and wrong, wanting to create a more just and ethical world, while the type 3 is motivated by achieving goals, making a tangible impact.
Exactly. And when they combine these forces, it's like a superpower. Imagine them starting a business together.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
The type 1's unwavering commitment to ethical practices would ensure that the business operates with integrity. And then you have the type 3's drive and ambition propelling the company towards success.
Okay, I love that. It's like they each bring a different ingredient to the recipe for success, and it's not just in the professional realm, right?
No, absolutely not. This plays out beautifully in their personal lives, too.
Okay, give me an example.
Imagine them planning a trip abroad. The type 1 might carefully research sustainable tourism options, choose destinations that align with their values. Meanwhile, the type 3, amazing at organizing logistics, booking those flights, making sure everything runs smoothly.
Wow. So an adventure that's both meaningful, A&D, well executed. I love it. Now, speaking of adventure, how do you think a type 1 and type 3 would fare in a romantic relationship?
Ooh, good question.
We know they're both passionate,
Yeah.
driven, but could that intensity lead to, clashes?
It certainly could. Remember, type 1s can be quite serious, principled. Type 3s are all about image and success. There's potential for the type 1 to come across as a bit too intense or critical, while the type 3 might prioritize external validation over deeper emotional connection.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. Sounds like a recipe for some late-night relationship debates.
Right, but there are also ways they can balance each other out romantically.
Okay, I'm listening.
The type 1 can help the type 3 connect with their authentic self, prioritize what truly matters. And the type 3 can bring more lightness, spontaneity into the relationship, encouraging the type 1 to, loosen up a bit, have some fun.
So it's like they each have a superpower that unlocks the other's hidden potential. Type 1 helps ground that ambition in something meaningful, and Type 3 helps Type 1, lighten up and enjoy the ride.
You got it. That's what makes this pairing so dynamic. They have the potential to push each other out of their comfort zones into a space of incredible growth and fulfillment. But of course, it takes work, awareness, a willingness to embrace those differences.
All right, speaking of work, let's talk about how they approach professional goals. They both value achievement, right? But do their different motivations create tension?
They can, definitely. The type 1 is driven by a desire to do things the right way, to achieve excellence because it aligns with their values. The type 3, on the other hand, might be more focused on external recognition, climbing that ladder of success.
So the type 1 might be happy working behind the scenes on projects they believe in, while the type 3 thrives in the spotlight, seeking accolades and promotions.
That's it, exactly. That's where understanding each other's motivations is crucial. The type 1 might need to remember. The type 3's desire for recognition, it's not superficial. It's a way of feeling valued, successful.
And the type 3, they might need to appreciate that the type 1's dedication to quality isn't about being a perfectionist. It's about upholding their principles, making a positive impact.
Yeah, it's all about perspective. And when they can see each other's points of view, appreciate those differences, they can create a powerful synergy.
It's like they each bring a different set of tools to the workplace. The type 1 has the hammer of integrity, the wrench of attention to detail. The type 3 brings the drill of ambition and the saw of strategic thinking.
I love that analogy. And together, they can build something truly remarkable.
This is all very fascinating, but I'm realizing we've only scratched the surface of what makes this pairing so compelling. I think we need to dive even deeper. We need to explore some practical tips, strategies for navigating the unique challenges and opportunities of a type 1 and type 3 relationship.
Yeah, let's get into the nitty-gritty. I'm game if you are.
For our listeners out there who might be in a type 1, type 3 relationship or considering one, what are some actionable tips for making this dynamic really work?
Communication is key. Always. But it's not just about talking, it's about understanding where your partner is coming from.
Right, because just talking at each other isn't going to cut it.
Exactly. So type 1s, it's important to do things the right way, but your type 3 partner might not always share that same level of, meticulousness.
Yeah, that attention to detail can be a blessing and a curse sometimes.
Right, so try to find a balance between upholding your standards and allowing some room for flexibility.
So instead of saying, this isn't how it's supposed to be done.
Right, which can sound a little accusatory.
A type 1 could try something like, hey, I see you're doing it this way. Have you considered trying this approach? I think it might be even more effective.
Exactly. Offering your insight without making your partner feel like they're doing everything wrong.
Yeah, much better. And type 3s. Remember that your type 1 partner's critiques, they're not personal attacks.
They really aren't.
It's coming from a place of wanting things to be the best they can be.
Right, that drive for improvement.
Try to see their feedback as a way to, improve, not a judgment of your worth.
It's about growth, not criticism.
Exactly. So it's like they each have this secret weapon, right? Type 1 helps the type 3 refine their approach. And type 3 helps type 1 loosen up, focus on the bigger picture. But what about navigating everyday decisions? Type 1s are known for being thoughtful, deliberate, while type 3s tend to be more impulsive, action-oriented.
Oh, that's where setting clear expectations and finding a compromise is so important.
Yeah, how do you actually DO that?
Well, maybe you agree that for bigger decisions like buying a house or choosing a school for your kids, you'll take the time to really discuss all the options. But for smaller, everyday choices like what to have for dinner.
Right, we don't need a spreadsheet for every meal.
Exactly. You can alternate who takes the lead.
Makes sense. Creating a system that honors both those needs for careful consideration, efficient action. Now, can't forget about emotional support, right?
Yeah.
How can a type 1 and a type 3 really show up for each other when things get tough?
Well, remember, their instincts under stress are quite different. A type 1 might retreat, become more critical, while a type 3 might bury themselves in work. The key is to be aware of these tendencies and create space for each other to cope in their own way.
Okay, so it's not about trying to force them into your way of handling stress.
No, not at all. It's about understanding and support.
So a type 3 might need to give their type 1 partner some time, some space to process their emotions before expecting them to, jump back into action.
Exactly. And a type 1 might need to remind themselves that the type 3's busyness isn't disinterest. It's their way of dealing with that anxiety.
Wait, it's not personal, it's just how they cope.
Exactly. It's all about compassion, understanding. Even when those coping mechanisms seem completely different.
It's like learning to speak each other's love language, but for stress, for difficult emotions. Now, before we wrap up, I gotta ask, what's the biggest misconception people have about type 1 and type 3 compatibility?
I think people often assume that because they're both driven and ambitious, they'll automatically be on the same page.
Like, oh, you both like to achieve things, you'll be perfect together.
Right. But that's not always the case. Their motivations can be quite different. And their approaches to achieving those goals, oh, they can clash.
It's like assuming two people who love to cook will always enjoy cooking together.
Yes, they might have completely different styles in the kitchen.
Exactly. So compatibility isn't about being exactly the same. It's about understanding and appreciating those differences.
Well said. So, as we bring this deep dive to a close, what's the key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I want them to remember a Type 1 and Type 3 pairing has incredible potential. They can challenge each other, inspire each other, achieve amazing things together, but it takes effort, communication, a willingness to embrace those differences. When they learn to dance together, despite those contrasting styles, the result can be a truly beautiful and fulfilling partnership.
Beautifully put. And I think that's a perfect note to end on. Remember, whether you're a Type 1, a Type 3, or any other type, understanding the Enneagram can give you incredible insights into yourself and your relationships. And a quick reminder, this deep dive was powered by Personality NFT. So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep growing.